This is Brugmansia, or Angel's Trumpet. I believe what you're looking at is Brugmansia insignis, frosty pink. And there's also a yellow variety that you'll be looking at shortly. And I believe it is Brugmansia insignis Jamaica yellow. That said, I cannot be certain of either. There are a lot of different varieties in the Brugmansia family, a lot of hybrids, and such as Charles Grimaldi, which is a hybrid that has a golden orange type of color. The flowers are about 10 to 15 inches long. These ones that you're seeing here with the pink flowers, these are probably 10 to 12 inches long and about 4 to 6 inches across at the widest part of the flute of the trumpet. So let's get into the plant. Obviously has a very dramatic flower. That's what it's known for. They're pendulous in terms of how they hang, as you can see here. And the only downside to that is you don't get to look up inside the throat, which is the really dramatic view of the flower. But also as a specimen shrub or small tree, it's a very striking looking plant and nothing quite like it. Also, most of these varieties are fragrant, and especially at night. Something to know too, most parts of the plant are poisonous. So if you have a situation where that could be an issue, you certainly want to be aware of that. So the size on most of the varieties that are propagated and used, at least in California, are anywhere from kind of 8 to 12 feet tall and wide. And again, when you're looking at various varieties, look at what they say about that. The thing I find interesting too, these are all hybrids, or a lot of them are hybrids off of white varieties, but I rarely see the white ones. The pink and the yellow and orange and even some peach toned ones are the ones that I see most in propagation and use in the landscape. And I'll tell you, the other thing I see, or where I see most of these, are coastal California, all the way from San Diego, LA, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and in the Bay Area along the bay. I've seen all of these. I've seen these growing there. Now, one of my neighbors has one, and I want to speak to cold hardiness. Most of these are cold hardy down to the high 20s Fahrenheit, so 25 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. I have a neighbor who's had one for 4 or 5 years. His is in a protected area in his yard, but it does freeze most years, and his burns back. I've tried to grow these, and mine died. 1 out of 3 survived to the 2nd or 3rd year. So these are right on, that's a very good tell in terms of what they can handle. I would tell you 25 to 30 degrees is how hardy most of these are from my experience. And so if you live in an area that's milder than that, these are well suited for that, and they're even well suited for Hawaii. These are natives to South America, apparently. So they like regular garden water. They are very large, so if you're really going to appreciate and enjoy these, my neighbor keeps his about 6 to 8 feet tall and maybe 5 to 6 feet wide, and that works fine. You can hold them to that size. The one you're looking at here is probably 10 by 10, and they've pruned up the lower branches to make it look like a small tree, which is a nice look. Here they've got this one is probably only about 5 feet tall and 5 feet wide. So again, really nice large specimen shrub is how I like to play it in a design, and you can leave room underneath it for lower shrubs and then prune up the lower branches so you get a small tree effect. Very good for tropical or kind of subtropical looks in a design, or just as an interesting specimen shrub for a lot of visual impact. By the way, these are all filmed at the end of September in Santa Barbara, California, and in full bloom. As you can see, these bloom over a very long period. In areas like Santa Barbara, not uncommon to see flowers on this a good part of the year, but I've seen fall and late summer as one of the heavier bloom periods, by the way. In terms of sunlight, I would say use these in full sun, especially near the coast, but you can also use these as an understory tree. I've seen these in a lot of shade in Santa Barbara, especially, and in San Francisco, so I would say they can handle sun or shade. These large leaves are usually suited for something that's an understory plant in maybe a jungly type of situation, so I would say you can do that too. One of the things I've seen with this plant though is chlorosis. You see some yellowing in these leaves right here. And a lot of times when you get a plant that blooms this heavily, it sucks a lot of energy out of the plant. They're producing these big flowers, and especially if they're allowed to go to seed, a lot of plants will start to get chlorotic or turn yellow like you're seeing here. And I would say that that's probably a good sign that you should be feeding these when chlorosis starts to set in or at the end of a bloom. Kind of like roses, at the end of a bloom cycle, they're depleted of a lot of nutrients, and giving them a good feeding kind of helps them rebuild that next bloom cycle. Also, you're seeing some holes in these leaves, and I saw that on a lot of the different Brugmansia that I've photographed, and I think insects can be a problem with this plant. So if that's something you're sensitive to, then I'd be aware of potentially having some kind of pest control along with these plants, and just be aware of that. So that is Brugmansia, or angel's trumpet. Beautiful, very striking, large specimen shrub slash small tree. Highly recommend that if it works for you. Enjoy.